All right, guys, happy Thursday. Definitely a big Thursday because Justin Baldoni is now personally suing Blake Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds. Obviously, originally he was suing the New York Times. Now he's going after them. And to that, my friends, I say, let's go, because hashtag him too. And today I'm going to give her some friendly advice. Plus, remember we warned you about a potential land grab in California? While people are trying to encourage others to sell their uninsured properties quickly, and it just stinks to the high heavens. We're going to discuss that. Plus, Tucker Carlson is going viral for what appears to be a murder mystery involving OpenAI's founder, Sam Altman. Got a lot to say about that. All that coming up on Candace. Listen to me, Blake Lively. Tap out, call uncle right now. Please take my advice. I feel like I am like Octagon side, UFC fight, and you're like, oh my gosh, is this guy's neck gonna get snapped? Please just tap out, be done with this. Ref, please call Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds out. Just call this out, because I'm telling you, they are not going to win this. And by the way, I'm gonna be honest, I love this, I genuinely love when a hashtag him too situation happens, because, in case you forgot, when the Me Too movement broke out, what was that, back in 2015, I might have been the only woman in the world who went around doing events wearing a hashtag him too shirt. This was not a very popular stance to have. There's somebody else I was working with wearing a believe facts. Obviously, you should believe facts and not believe women or believe men. And people were angry at me because so many women were just sharing stories on Twitter. And obviously women never lie. And then I was completely vindicated because the world realized, after this very strange period of amnesia, that no, women do in fact lie sometimes. Maybe sometimes a lot women lie, just like men sometimes lie, maybe a lot, but the facts never lie. Amber Heard certainly helped to catalyze that global realization. She just could not be content with winning. That's how everything happened for Amber Heard. She was winning. By the way, don't forget, she spun a story. She was photographed with a black eye. You guys remember the notorious photo of Amber Heard walking out and she had a black eye. And then the entire world was on her side and instantly hated Johnny Depp because she was married to him. And obviously they just made the assumption that Johnny Depp blackened her eye. And then she was invited to all of these red carpet events. She became sort of the face of the Me Too movement. Money was pouring in for her, and she couldn't stop. She was just high on her own supply. She was like, no, how else can I get attention for this? And then she made a fatal error. You know what that error was? Amber Heard wrote a piece published in the Washington Post. I can show you this Washington Post headline. This was at the beginning of the end. It was an opinion piece written by her. And she wrote, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change. And she very heavily implied, it was very obvious, that Johnny Depp had done these things to her, which then gave Johnny Depp the window to sue her for defamation over the piece. And ladies and gentlemen, she should have settled that case right there in the moment, said, sorry, mea culpa. I am very, very sorry. And here you are, Johnny Depp. I will pay you. Just let's agree to never speak about this publicly. But I'll tell you something. When women get high on their own supply, sometimes I think it is hard for them to imagine that they might lose. And let me tell you, lose Amber Heard did. Really, I would say more than the $15 million judgment that was given to Johnny, that she had to pay him $15 million. She lost her entire reputation. The public will never see Amber Heard in the same vein, right? The actress who in 2016 was named, according to science, they told us, as having the most beautiful face in the world. This is a real headline from the Daily Mail. Amber Heard has the most beautiful face in the world, according to science, followed by Kim Kardashian and Kate Moss, who has a perfect forehead. She was just seen as gorgeous. Every man wanted to be with her. And then all of a sudden, we fast forward to this public trial, and we are treated to stories about her having allegedly gone potty, number 2, on Johnny's bed, okay? Don't forget, the bodyguard testified that Amber Heard told him that it was simply a practical joke gone wrong. Yeah, the public is not going to be able to unhear that. You know what I mean? The public cannot unhear that she tried to blame going potty number 2 on her teacup Yorkies. And they were like, no, teacup Yorkies go potty number 2. It's a lot smaller. This was Amber Heard. And she talks about it with the bodyguard. It was just, it was, That's the sound effect. We all just felt very icky. And it was every piece of that trial, by the way, which was just a bad idea for Amber Heard, because while we can all acknowledge that Amber Heard is indeed gorgeous, absolutely beautiful, okay, she isn't exactly known for being an exceedingly talented actress. There are different types of actresses, some who are super beautiful and also can really act, like Angelina Jolie would be an example of this. And then there are some who are just supposed to take these roles and be hot, okay? Amber Heard was the latter. Beautiful, but we are not buying her when she's trying to be an amazing actress, and that's what she did on the stand. The facts betrayed her narrative, but she was like, I'm an actress, and I'm just going to sell that he really was the violent person. Like, one time throughout this trial, she had accused, and I'm sorry to chuckle at this because this was just a weird situation, she accused Johnny of having flown into a rage and beating her after he took MDMA, okay? MDMA, the love drug. This was a hard sell, I have seen people on MDMA, and it's the exact opposite. I bet you get Putin and Zelensky to hug today and everything. Peace settlements could have been a lot earlier for Israel and Hamas if everybody was doing MDMA, but I guess he had a weird reaction to it and flew into a rage. And now watch her try to sell this, even though, again, like I said, the facts, the text messages betrayed her narrative. Listen to Amber Heard on the stand, in case you forgot.
At one point, Johnny just shoves me, just shoves me hard. And I fall back onto this glass table. I catch myself on the table. I don't know how some furniture got knocked around. There was I'm trying to stand up for myself. I'm trying to stand up, literally. I'm not, at this point, I don't even try to hit back or try to run. I'm in this hotel room trying to do my best to fight mostly the verbal accusations, but also I try to stay on my feet, At some point, Johnny whacks me in the face. And I don't remember feeling pain or awareness of my nose or anything. I don't remember thinking that. I remember kind of crying and.
Yeah. It wasn't exactly a good job. She also tried to sell that he had abused Kate Moss, I believe, threw her down the stairs. Then Kate Moss took the stand and said none of this was true, and he was loving. All of his exes took the stand, and for exes to fall apart and then come together and be like, no, Vanessa Paradis, every single person that he had dated and was married was like, he was a loving, gentle creature who would never do any of these things. It was bad. It was very, very bad. And like I said, then we saw the real Amber Heard in the text messages, because she was like basically saying, I hit you, and what are you going to do, you big baby? You're going to go tell that I did it, blah, 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 blah. It was crazy. I particularly love this clip also of her, I would just say, ultimately a bad performance on the stand. Take a listen.
Slapped me across the face. And I laughed. I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. I thought, this must be a joke.
So this wound up being an unmitigated disaster, okay? And I am showing you this because this is exactly what will happen, mark my words, to Blake Lively if she is put on the stand, okay? Take us to the bank. Because similarly, while she is undoubtedly very beautiful, she always has been very beautiful, she does not have the acting chops to pull this off, okay? If it was Angelina Jolie, I'd be like, yeah, do it. Get on the stand, girl. You're going to sell that. I'm going to believe it. Whatever you say, I'm going to probably put Leonardo DiCaprio up there. I'm in. Denzel Washington, forget it. He can say anybody to anything, and I'm the jury. I'm voting yes. They did that to him. Denzel Washington was abused by Johnny Depp. That's what I'm saying. Not feeling that way about Blake Lively's acting. You can't do it when you're C-list, C-list acting is not going to pull that off. So anyways, to briefly recap, Blake Lively obviously starred alongside Justin Baldoni in the movie It Ends With Us. They apparently absolutely hated one another. They had an emergency meeting at some point to deal with their hatred for one another, set some new rules on set. And then throughout the press tour, articles began leaking first about Justin to TMZ, saying that he had inappropriately asked her trainer about her weight because he had a bad back, and there was a scene where he had to lift her up, and she was postpartum, so she was very offended by this. Now, Baldoni was a director of the movie, one of the directors on the movie, and he obviously, therefore, wanted the movie to be a success. And the studio company also, therefore, wanted it to be a success. And they're seeing these articles leak, and they made a move to hire a crisis management team because they sensed that perhaps somebody in Blake's team, a friend, maybe it was even Taylor Swift, who knows, was leaking this information to the press, which was creating, obviously, a frenzy, which could have impacted the movie. Now, before that crisis PR firm ever even needed to try to fight publicly, all by ourselves, I'm saying ourselves, I wasn't really a part of this, but like the public just began hating Blake Lively because of her general demeanor on the red carpet events, plus a ton of old clips of her began circulating, just being objectively rude to reporters over the years. And people just said, you know what, she's very bratty and unbearable, and I don't like her. What likely happened thereafter was Blake assumed that all of these bad articles that were being written about her couldn't have been, what? I'm Blake Lively. I'm amazing. Everybody loves me. I'm pretty. I'm friends with Taylor Swift. Obviously, Justin Baldoni must be plotting behind my back with Wayfarer Studios to get these articles because there's just no way that it could be me. I'm so funny and great and amazing. And I believe she genuinely thought that it was coming from his team. And it turns out that it maybe wasn't, okay? And I'm saying like very strong evidence that it was not coming from his team, and the hate for her was completely genuine. And therefore, the crisis PR team that was hired was mocking via emails behind the back, like, ha, 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 like, this is hilarious. Like, what are we even hired for? We didn't have to do anything. Ha, ha, did you put this in the press? I couldn't have even thought this up. So with Blake's reputation shattered, she and her team then cooked up an idea to essentially try to change the narrative, right? To file a complaint, not a lawsuit. They filed a complaint with the California Employment Office accusing Justin Baldoni of all sorts of things, primarily in a couple of words, being a creep, right? Coordinating a smear campaign of her, talking to her about his previous pornography addiction. She accused his friend and also another director on the film of showing her what she first thought was pornography of his wife. And then she realized it wasn't pornography, but still felt it was inappropriate. And she even went so far as to say that he was creepy with an underage character on the set. Very sneaky language. Sneaky language, why? Because underage character, it turned out, actually meant a perfectly of age actress who was playing an underage character from the book. So the woman was 24 years old. They put that language in there kind of to make people feel horrified. Like, oh my God, not only is he creepy, but it's giving pedo vibes. Like, and nobody then realized that, no, actually, this is wildly manipulative. And no, the pornographic video was pertaining to a scene that she was doing on set, and he was showing a video of his wife giving birth with his wife's permission because he wanted her to understand how giving birth naturally takes place because perhaps she had no experience, it sounds like. So it was wildly manipulative, and Justin Baldoni sued the New York Times because somehow it got leaked to them. It seems pretty obvious that that might have been somebody on Blake Lively's team. And I'm going to go with, by the way, Blake sitting in a room around that time. She was hanging out with Taylor Swift a lot, right? Her and Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were walking around like, baby, now we got bad blood. Like, you just felt the vibes. And the thing about Taylor Swift is she also lives in La La Land. This is the problem, ladies and gentlemen, with being an A-lister, okay? You live in La La Land. You are surrounded by people who tell you you can do nothing wrong. They're just a bunch of yes men, okay? Just yes, yes, whatever you want, whatever you want. And so she's probably speaking about this. This is me kind of imagining what happened behind the scenes with Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift always gets back at a guy that does something to her. Taylor Swift, in all of her 97 relationships, has never done anything wrong. She puts it in a song and everyone takes her side. That's her version of a lawsuit, of filing a complaint. She puts it in a song, a bunch of teenagers sing along with it, and she gets what she wants. People just buy her narrative. And I am surmising that perhaps she gave some advice to her best friend, Blake Lively, throughout this time. Anyways, Justin Baldoni is not taking this sitting down. Aside from suing the New York Times, he just filed today a lawsuit against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds personally for $400 million, okay, alleging defamation and extortion. He's also suing their publicist, Leslie Sloan, and Sloan's PR firm, Vision PR. His attorneys filed the lawsuit today in the Southern District of New York on behalf of Baldoni and the producer Jamie Heath, the publicist Jennifer Abel, and the crisis publicist Melissa Nathan, who we were shown messages out of context. They tried to present it to us, the New York Times, like these people tried to sink Blake Lively, and they left out messages which showed that they were just laughing at the fact that they didn't have to do anything because the public already recognized that she wasn't a great person. And so they were kind of high-fiving and laughing. And the New York Times declined, for whatever reason, to make that clear, probably because of pre-existing relationships. Maybe Taylor Swift's people were helping out. I don't know. Again, the point being is that he is suing them on claims of civil extortion, defamation, false light, invasion of privacy, breach of implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, intentional interference with contractual relations, intentional interference with prospective economic advantage, plus negligent interference with prospective economic advantage, okay? Now, I am going to show you a clip of Baldoni's lawyer, who I like very much, Brian Friedman. I like Brian Friedman. He seems like a tiger, and I can just sense he's telling the truth. I've got good vibes. Mommy intuition. This man is telling the truth. Here is him on NBC today.
Justin Baldoni has built his brand and is known for supporting women, believing women. So why in this case should people not believe Blake Lively?
I'm not asking anyone to not believe anyone. I am more than willing to take every single text message that exists out there, lay them out, put them on a website for the world to see, have them see the truth and determine the truth for themselves.
You see, whenever you got someone on one side of a lawsuit who is saying just publish everything and let the public decide, go with that person. He is more than willing to put every single text message and communication. Allegedly, she's telling us he's a creep. He stormed into my dressing room when I was feeding my baby. I was vulnerable. And he's going, wait a second, you once invited us in while you were breast pumping, sending us mixed signals. We thought this was totally fine. It's not going to be good for Blake Lively. I am telling you, the vibes are not vibing here for her. Okay. He also gave a killer statement to the press. He said the lawsuit is a legal action based on an overwhelming amount of untampered evidence detailing Blake Lively and her team's duplicitous attempt to destroy Justin Baldoni, his team, and their respective companies by disseminating grossly edited, unsubstantiated, new, and doctored information to the media. It is clear, based on our own all-out willingness to provide all of the complete text messages, emails, video footage, and other documentary evidence that was shared between the parties in real time, that this is a battle that she will not win and will certainly regret. Okay, Blake Lively was either severely misled by her team or intentionally and knowingly misrepresented the truth. Let's not forget, Miss Lively and her team attempted to bulldoze reputations and livelihoods for heinously selfish reasons through their own dangerous manipulation of the media before even taking any actual legal action. We know the truth, and now the public does too. Justin and his team have nothing to hide. Documents do not lie. Yeah, that's a kill shot right there. I'm telling you, Blake, please. I know we are not homies and we never will be homies. I don't do this like Me Too modern feminist stuff, but I am telling you, girlfriend to girlfriend, you are not going to win this. You are not going to win. There's just like, I just feel it. I feel the energy that is telling me that you and your husband were a little too high up on your horse, okay? High up on your horse, just feeling the A-list vibes, thinking that there's nothing that can possibly take you down. It happens. People get deluded. You've had a perfect childhood, everything handed to you. You grew up wealthy. I get it. I get it. There's no one in the room telling you what I'm going to tell you. You are going to lose this and much more. By the way, and there's no way to contain this. This is also going to impact your husband's career, which is a lot stronger than your career. Okay, so unless you've got some smoking gun and he's really just this bold and Brian Friedman is really just this much of a liar and you're willing to get on that stand and show that, no, you were really sexually harassed on this set, which I'm going to guess when he says videos, yeah, there were a lot of cameras there too. So she made a lot of allegations about what happened. You've got to cut a lot of that stuff and they're probably still have all the things that they cut. My best guess is Justin Baldoni is telling the truth. Brian Friedman is telling the truth. And girlfriend, I'm telling you, wrap this up, settle this tomorrow. Tomorrow, settle it, okay? I got you. No worries. Take a quick blow to your career. People will laugh at you, they'll mock at you, but they'll never remember you for pooping on a bed, okay? And that's what's really important here. All right, guys, I want to remind you about Goldco. It's officially 2025, and we could be in for a seriously bumpy ride. Obviously, we're happy that we have a new president on the way, but there is bad news that just keeps piling up. The stock market volatility is back. The credit card defaults are soaring. Global conflicts aren't going anywhere. And the national debt is bursting at the seams. You know the saying, hope for the best, but plan for the worst. Well, that's what I'm doing. And that's exactly why I partner with the top precious metals company, which is Goldco. I've personally done business with them, and they are the best. Right now, my viewers will get a free copy of their 2025 gold and silver kit, and you could also qualify for up to $15,000 in bonus silver, possibly even more. Gold and silver have been used as a store of value for centuries and as a hedge against market risk and inflation. So to learn more, you just head to CandaceLikesGold.com. Again, that is CandaceLikesGold.com. Okay, got a story for you guys. I'm sure you maybe saw this on X, but Tucker Carlson is trending over an interview that he gave yesterday. And I just want to back this up and get into a little bit of history just regarding chief medical examiners in general. Okay, before we get to the crux of the story, let's just talk about chief medical examiners in general, because you probably don't even realize, like, when did America start establishing the need to have a chief medical examiner? Okay, so there was this guy many moons ago, really the early 20th century. His name was Dr. Charles Norris of New York City. I'm showing you a picture of him right here. He was the first ever, or is considered the first ever chief medical examiner in the United States. Again, he was married, which is relevant, to an immigrant from Austria, and he worked alongside Alexander Oscar Gettler. Here's a picture of Alexander Gettler, who was the first toxicologist, forensic toxicologist, between 1918 and 1959, okay? He was the first forensic chemist, to be employed in the capacity by a U.S. city. So that's where it started. It started in New York. And I want to tell you that because there's a lot of history that we should unpack about New York and the flood of immigrants that came in there. And you should know that to establish an office like that actually gave that office a tremendous amount of power, because suddenly they established that there were experts, okay? And of course, you just should immediately trust the experts, even if you're not really sure about the facts and what they're telling you. I'll give you an example regarding these two men. In December of 1926, there was this guy named Frank Travia. He was caught, literally, carrying parts of a woman who was chopped up. Her name was Anna Fredrickson. He was carrying her body chopped up, or parts of her body chopped up, to the Brooklyn waterfront in New York City. And the detectives were able to find him, and they found the remains of Anna's dismembered body in his apartment. So obviously, they charged him with murder. Travia then claimed that he and the victim had fallen asleep after drinking some whiskey in his apartment, and that after waking up, he found her dead on the floor. Okay, that was his story. In come Dr. Norris and Dr. Gettler, and they conclude, no, this victim died of carbon monoxide. Somehow he survived it. They fell asleep together, as he said, on the floor, but like he survived she died of carbon monoxide poisoning, and so she wasn't killed by Travia, okay? The police department obviously did not believe this. They ignored these conclusions, and they charged Travia with murder. But at the trial in March, now with the jury, the forensic analysis of chemist Gettler proved that no, actually, it was carbon monoxide from Travia's stove, and she was poisoned to death. So ignore the body that's chopped up in the bag and being thrown in the Brooklyn River, okay? Travia is innocent. He was acquitted of murder. This is a real article that I'm showing you. He actually got acquitted for murder because of this brand new office that had been established. Wacky. Okay, you look into the history of these things, and they were even able, talk about just like impacting business in the United States. Standard Oil, they got like an entire Standard Oil factory shut down because they were saying, oh, there's poison in the air. We're the experts, so you can't dispute that. We're the chemists. There's poison in the air. Okay. So anyways, going into that story, which, like I said, a flood of immigrants, it's particularly relevant, the assassination of the Tsar in Russia. I don't know if that was 1880 or 1881. And then a ton of immigrants came into New York City. And these people were, as they were in Russia, a lot of them they weren't sending their best. Okay, that's what I'll say. They were not sending their best. They were thugs. Okay, they were definitively commies, and they were here to overthrow and to establish a new order. So it's Standard Oil, by the way, gets attacked several different ways by these immigrants, which I will have to get into at a later point. And obviously, I don't want to get into trouble. So I'm not going to say what kinds of immigrants like Dr. Gettler flooded into this new field of science. In fact, I'm gonna let Kanye West not say that.
I'm not going to say what race, what people doctor and what hospital and what media it went to. We know I can't say that. It was a Jewish doctor.
No, Kanye, no. Oh my God, no. Okay, I can't, I am very deeply disappointed in Kanye for saying that. He specifically said he was not going to say that. Anyways, all of this to say that the origin story of medical examiners and forensics in America is riddled with organized crime and communism, okay? I am telling you that. I have done a deep dive on that, and we will dive deeper into that when I launch my own platform, because I will get double demonetized for knowing history. So that's what the platform we're building is for, and we're so close to launching that this month. So we'll wait for then. But I'm telling you this because we have seen this corruption regarding chief medical examiner's office in modern times. If you're listening to this podcast, if you've read that book Chaos that I keep recommending that you read, it goes into California, the corruption of these medical offices, and you're realizing that we were completely lied to about something as big as the Manson murders. Crazy. In the Kamala Chronicles even, remember we interviewed that Japanese journalist Yoichi Shimatsu, and he was convinced, similarly California, that someone that he had mentored, and I'm blanking on the guy's name, he said he was murdered, and they said that it was a suicide because he stood up to the political mafia in San Francisco, of which he was saying was being run by Willie Brown and had ties to the cartels and George Soros. And don't even get me started on everything we learned about the corruption of these offices during COVID. You really have to go back in history and to understand that these offices were not established, in my view, out of goodness. They were not established out of goodness. It gave a tremendous amount of power to competing mafias in this country. Anyways, this brings me to Tucker Carlson, who, just to give you a background of who he had on his show, he was speaking about Sam Altman. If you don't know who Sam Altman is, maybe you don't follow the world of AI because you're a woman like me and it's not as interesting as other topics. But Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI, okay? Essentially, it's the company which created ChatGPT, this new focus on artificial intelligence, right? Now, the difference between artificial intelligence, which is what ChatGPT is essentially, if you could think about it, artificial intelligence that way is just a culmination of a ton of information and trying to get to the source of what that information is, or trying to create like a general information based off of all of the information. Does that make sense? It's almost in that way like a search engine, like a ultimate search engine is what you would describe Grok and ChatGPT, but they can get things wrong, obviously, right? Because a lot of people can be wrong, and then they're using all of this wrong information to decide on a conclusion. Then there's artificial general intelligence, and that is essentially where they're trying to get to. These people that are all about AI, that's why I'm like, I just give pause on Elon Musk, the Peter Thiels, the Sam Altmans of the world, because they are pro-artificial general intelligence as well, which would mean something that can think by itself. It's not relying on all of your information and my information. Essentially, it would be like self-thinking, think of robots. Well, Sam Altman is a very dark character in general because he, among with others, lobbied the California state. They were trying to pass a piece of legislation that would require these companies to build a kill switch into AI. So essentially, maybe that robot's getting a little too smart, AI technology is getting a little too smart, we can remotely kill that. And for whatever reason, they did not want that to be a thing. And they made all sorts of arguments of why that shouldn't happen. It would get in the way of free market. I don't know. But I like the idea of a kill switch for a robot as much as the next guy, okay? Enter in a young man whose name was Suchir Balaji. This is a picture of him. He was just 26 years old. He was, according to his mother, incredibly brilliant, and he was a former engineer under Sam Altman. He was working to train the artificial intelligence systems that were behind ChatGPT. But later, he started believing that those practices violated copyright law, and then he was found dead just days before he was meant to be called to be a witness in a case, okay? He was found dead in his San Francisco apartment on November 26th in what police said appeared to be a suicide. They said there was no evidence of foul play that was found during the initial investigation. Now, I can't show you the photos on YouTube without getting hit. You should go onto X and look at the photos of what they tried to allege was simply a suicide. Photos from the apartment, okay? Doesn't look like a suicide to me. So his family's calling for the death to be reinvestigated, and his mother, Purnima Ramarao, joined Tucker Carlson to discuss this, and listen to what she had to say about the chief medical examiner's office that ruled her son's death a suicide.
Did the officers at the scene give you any indication of how they thought your son died?
At 4 o'clock, they came to the leasing office, and then medical examiner said he shot himself. He killed himself. It's a suicide. At that moment, I raised to them, look, my son went into New York Times. He's a whistleblower, and his death doesn't look suicide to me. They just didn't want to listen. He bought a gun. It belongs to him. Nobody went into the complex. Nobody came out. He was all by himself. And it's a suicide. And how long it took, can you believe it? 40 minutes to investigate. 40 minutes to determine the cause of death. And at 4 o'clock, they give me the keys for the apartment and they say you can collect the body tomorrow. Like right from that moment, I see foul play. Proper formalities were not followed. And the next day, they released the body within 24 hours without doing the complete autopsy. They removed the bullet. They did a CT scan. They returned the body to us. Then we just checked with the funeral home and we discussed with them. And then they also said, looks like it doesn't seem normal. There's something very unusual here. You should do a second private autopsy.
The funeral home suggested that.
Yes.
The funeral home saying, yeah, I don't know what you were told, but this does not look like a suicide to us. This kind of reminds me, by the way, we covered it a long time ago, like the Josh Shapiro story. I think he was attorney general when that young woman, Ellen Greenberg, we're supposed to believe she stabbed herself in the back 20 times. I mean, just incredible story. And her family has been fighting for justice forever. But again, when you look at these stories of these immigrants, they went into these cities, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and they were running things. They were just running things, and they would intentionally get certain people elected to offices, were establishing offices that had never been here in the United States. And like I said, I have gone through that history, but for whatever reason, you're not allowed to talk about it because it's considered a conspiracy. It's not. It's like actual true history. And it's very clear that there is something dark going on in San Francisco and in other cities like Chicago and Philadelphia, which is why I would never, ever want to live there now. But I'm speaking about all of these issues because I know how it goes. Okay, something happens to me. And if there's tons of evidence that to the contrary, without question, they're going to be like, no, she's just a suicide. That's why I always just need you guys to know I am not suicidal. You know why? I'm never going to be suicidal. I'm a Catholic. Okay. It's not my thing. But anyways, jumping back into the story, she then spoke to Tucker Carlson even about the bullet angle for his alleged suicide. Take a listen.
Your son's body was taken away. It was evaluated in some way by the authorities. They say this is a suicide. You have a real autopsy done by Professor Rao, and he says, what about the bullet angle? Will you explain that?
The autopsy was done by Dr. Joseph Cohen.
Okay.
And he says two things. One of them is the bullet angle is going downward, about 30 to 45 degrees downward. It's been shot here. It's missed the brain. Second thing is there's a head injury on the left side of the head. In fact, I spoke to medical examiner's office, executive director. I told him there's a head injury, there's sign of struggle in the bathroom. He just declared that I'm the decision-making authority of state of California. I decide the cause of death. And when I brought up we'll have federal investigation, there was a momentary setback in his voice on the phone, but still they're holding on to suicide.
So Dr. Cohen's autopsy, and this is grisly, I'm sorry, but proves that the bullet was fired at what angle?
Yeah, it's downward angle, that someone cannot shoot themselves.
Right. So in other words, if this were a suicide, your son would have had to have held the gun to his forehead coming
from
down.
The top. Okay. He was made to sit. If you look at the same thing, like so the victim was sitting down. He was made to sit, someone standing, he shot him down.
Absolutely insane. Terrifying to think that this can happen, that this is happening in broad daylight, and that, of course, people that should be covering this stuff and calling for all of this corruption are all being controlled. I mean, we learned this even in the Diddy lawsuit. I very much suggest it's very clear something's going on in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Philadelphia, and then they just start calling you names when you go, hey guys, how many people can keep telling you that you have people that are working in the police department, people that are working in the chief medical's office, people have been making these claims since the 60s. If you read that book, by the way, earlier for sure, but I mean, starting with chaos and recognizing this before we say, who are these people working for? Who are these chief medical examiners in these major cities that are employed by a lot of corrupt people? Like Silicon Valley would be very important. It would be very important to secure those positions, to secure that chief medical examiner officer's position. Who are these people working for is the question. And apparently we are not allowed to try to answer that, but we're talking about it today. Anyways, we will keep an eye on this case. The chief medical officer pretty much confirmed that the manner of death was a suicide, but a congressman is now backing calls for an FBI investigation into the death. So not that the FBI is any less corrupt, but we will see what happens there. And I can't imagine going through that and burying your child and seeing this corruption up close. Sam Altman, by the way, creepy guy. Just his face is just extraordinarily creepy. His sister, by the way, is now suing him, I believe, for sexual assault. Let me fact check that real quick before him and his billions come after me. Sam Altman's sister. Give me 1 second, guys. I want to make sure the exact thing. He is denying that he raped her. His sister has filed a lawsuit alleging that he regularly sexually abused her between 1997 and 2006. So we'll see what happens with that case as well. Anyways, you guys, wanted to remind you about Beam, because if you struggled with sleep last year, there is no better way to start 2025 than with consistent, restful nights. That's why I'm excited to talk to you about Beam's Dream Powder, a science-backed, healthy nighttime blend for sleep that is clinically shown to improve sleep and have you waking up feeling refreshed. All you need to do is mix Beam into milk or hot water and enjoy it before bed. Other sleep aids can cause next-day grogginess, but Dream contains a powerful blend of reishi, magnesium L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and you will wake up feeling refreshed. For the ultimate sleep refresh for the new year, try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, and you'll get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Candace and use code Candace at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Candace and use code Candace, and you'll get 40% off. Also, don't forget about American Financing, because I know there's so many people that are struggling with high credit card bills. Well, there is no better time than right now to wipe out that debt and set yourself up for a strong 2025. Interest rates have fallen, and my friends at American Financing can help you access equity in your home at an interest rate that is in the fives. That is much lower rate than the average 25% credit card rate. So think about how much you could be saving every month. American Financing is saving their customers an average of $800 a month, and that is like a $10,000 raise annually to start the new year. They're closing in as fast as 10 days and even delaying 2 mortgage payments for some. So call American Financing today at 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210. Or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. Again, that's americanfinancing.net/Owens. Okay, Gavin Newsom, not our favorite lizard. I don't like Gavin Newsom because vibes, okay? He just seems like a monster. He's obviously corrupt. He's in California where everything is corrupt. You know, I just think the mafia has gone mainstream. It's just like the politicians, the music execs, everybody is just, oh gosh, I'm not allowed to say that on YouTube. I don't know why you're not allowed to say that at all. I don't know. It's crazy. But I don't like anything that happens in California and the people that are in power of California. But I will say that Gavin Newsom got something right, okay? So last week, not with the fires, obviously this has all been mismanaged, it's a disaster, but last week we expressed concern over the potential that with these fires, there was obviously going to be a major land grab, right? BlackRock was going to come in, buy everything at a fraction of what it's actually worth, because that just seems to be standard operating procedure after a disaster. Find people that are absolutely desperate, have nowhere to go, and say, well, I know your property's worth this, but how about I just give you like 10% of that and you go somewhere because you need the cash now, you know? People who lose all of their homes and they cannot get money from their insurers from one reason or another, and then along will come a company that says they'll write you a check, you will do that. You will accept that check, okay? So Gavin Newsom issued essentially an executive order, and I'm going to read you his tweet. Here's what it says. It says, today I signed an executive order prohibiting greedy land developers from ripping off LA wildfire victims with unsolicited, keyword unsolicited, undervalued offers to buy their destroyed property. Make no mistake, this is a prosecutable crime, and this is the video that he attached to that tweet.
I'm here in Altadena. I just signed an executive order with community leaders to deal with the issue that is becoming a bigger and bigger issue every day, and that's land developers that are engaging in predatory efforts to make unsolicited offers for properties at significantly below market value. This predatory behavior is disgusting in the best of times, and of course here in the midst of this tragedy at scale, it's disgraceful. So we're going to hold those folks accountable. I'm very grateful for the leadership here in the community that promoted this approach, and this executive order is a reflection of their direction and their commitment to preserving the unique character of this community for generations to come.
So that's a good thing. That is objectively a good thing. I am not so partisan that I will say, well, you're Gavin Newsom, so I'm just going to pretend that's bad. That's exactly what we are worried about. And again, you don't want these guys, these Wall Street guys coming in and swooping up all the land, because that, to me, just leads me to conspiracy theories about who's behind all of this, okay? And I don't want to have to be a conspiracy theorist full time. Just kidding. Yes, I do. But anyways, for whatever reason, some conservatives took issue with this, and I was quite stunned to see the tweets that were coming out about this. So here's Ben Shapiro, who tweeted this. Homeowner, oh no, my house burned down. Developer, hey, I'll offer you $2 million for your torched piece of land that won't be livable for 4 years. Newsom, stop that right now, you greedy land developer, with your unsolicited offer to pay this fire victim money. Like, that is like not at all what is happening. Like, that is not what he said. That is not what he is doing. Why are you taking the position of greedy land developers and trying to pretend that they're being helpful? Okay, what he's saying is undervalued. And we know what this is. This is like people going to a pawn shop out of desperation. They have something that's actually worth a lot of money, and they're going to get a small percentage of it because they need the cash now. That is what he is trying to prevent. And you're selling it as if they're heroic. These landowners are going to come in and he's going to prevent them from doing that. It's like, it comes across as so Team BlackRock. You know what I mean? And he wasn't the only one who made it seem as though what he was doing, what Gavin Newsom was doing, was dirty. Ted Cruz, who I like very much. I like Ted Cruz, but he writes, misguided CA policies. Okay, I agree with the first part of this. Limited fire mitigation efforts, produced water shortages, and underfunded firefighters. All agree with all that. Then the bottom says, now Dem politicians are making it harder for those devastated by the wildfires to sell their destroyed properties. This will only hurt the victims. Okay, if I may. You know what I think we should do? Rather than leaning on BlackRock to swoop up land that's undervalued, why don't we cut them some of the billions of dollars we're able to send, like Ted Cruz is in Congress, Ben Shapiro is pro sending billions of dollars to Israel. Why don't we maybe keep some of that money home? Let's take a 1 year break from sending money from Israel to Israel and Ukraine. I said just 1 year. That's it, okay? 1 year. And instead, just write the checks and give them so that they can temporarily live, okay? So they can pay their rent, they can buy a property, whatever it is. Give it to actual Americans. I know, crazy. We don't do that. What do you mean? They get $700 and BlackRock takes their property at 10%. That's fair. No, that's not fair. That is not fair at all. So if you're concerned about them not having cash that is immediately available, I suggest we do what we always do every time our little welfare recipients like Zelensky and Bibi Netanyahu come out with their hands out. We just cut them a check. Cut them a check. It can just come from whatever that pile of money is, the never-ending pile of money that seems to be sitting for foreign nations. It is such crap. I mean, I was literally just like, what are we even talking about? Could you imagine you buy a home and you're like, okay, my home is worth $1 million. I bought it. It was only worth $200,000. And then it burns to the ground. You've got no insurance, and some greedy little goblin comes over and it's like, well, you really need the money now. How about I cut you $250K for that? You're like, but it's worth $250K. You need the cash. You need the cash. This is what conservatives are promoting? No. And to clarify, by the way, what he is actually proposing when you take a look at the executive order, he is saying for 3 months, they cannot solicit, meaning they can't call these people and say, hey, I'm with BlackRock. How about that $250K? If they want to reach out to those land developers, they're more than welcome to. If they're desperate and they want to reach out to land developers, they are welcome to do that. He's not stopping that from taking place. He's stopping greedy people who are ambulance chasers and take advantage of people in a crisis for 3 months, okay? And then beyond that, he is not allowing deals to go through that undervalue their properties. That's it. You just can't undervalue the property. That makes perfect sense, okay? If you're going to come and you're going to say that you're going to develop this land, whatever it is, it's got to be at the actual value so people can make that money back that they invested into their home. I can't. I really can't with the way that this world is going right now. I feel like we are like so way over time. Do want to also tell you about something that's just very objectively funny that Trump is doing. He is in a Truth Social post, just announced that he's naming Mel Gibson and Jon Voight as special ambassadors to very troubled Hollywood. I just love this so much. First of all, I love this because it's Mel Gibson in there, and Hollywood effectively chased Mel Gibson out. And now he's going to be the ambassador, the special ambassador to Hollywood. And his, I don't know how to say it, his Truth Social reads, "It is my honor to announce Jon Voight, Mel Gibson, and Sylvester Stallone to be special ambassadors to a great but very troubled place, Hollywood, California. They will serve as special envoys to me for the purpose of bringing Hollywood, which has lost much business over the last 4 years, to foreign countries, back bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. These three very talented people will be my eyes and ears, and I will get done what they suggest. It will again be like the United States of America itself, the golden age of Hollywood." Yeah, I don't know. I just love the idea of having special ambassadors to Hollywood, particularly when they are ambassadors like Mel Gibson, who is absolutely loathed by those in power in Hollywood. So that's just a fun little announcement to wrap this up. Okay, now I'm going to read all of your comments. I feel like I've been ranting this entire episode. I'm having so much fun today. I don't want to end it. But before we do, I'm going to remind you about 7 Weeks Coffee, because you already are drinking coffee, so you might as well do good while you're drinking coffee, okay? 7 Weeks Coffee is America's pro-life coffee company on a mission to fund the pro-life movement, one cup of coffee at a time. So if you're wondering why they're called 7 Weeks, it's because at 7 weeks, a baby is the size of a coffee bean, and it's the same time a heartbeat is clearly detected on an ultrasound. They donate 10% of every single sale to support pregnancy care centers across the country. And thus far, they have raised over $750,000 for these centers and have saved thousands of lives. Now, let me tell you about the coffee, because I'm very picky about what I drink. Their coffee is mold-free, pesticide-free, shade-grown, and low acid. It's organically farmed. It truly checks all the boxes. And because the coffee tastes better with a free gift, you can subscribe now and you'll get a free engraved coffee spoon. Look at that spoon. It's beautiful. It's engraved and it's yours. Exclusively for my listeners, if you go to 7weekscoffee.com and use code Candace for up to 25% off when you subscribe. Remember that your order will directly help support a network of over 1,000 pro-life organizations across the U.S. That's 7weekscoffee.com, and you can use code Candace. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the comments. By the way, I have a very sad announcement. We have no show tomorrow. We have no show tomorrow. You're asking why? It's because I need to take a day off because crazy developments are happening in the Emmanuel Macron thing. You probably sensed that things were crazy already because the sitting president sent me a legal letter. By the way, some of you are asking, Candace, when is that legal letter going to be up on Locals? We actually only sent it officially this morning because my lawyer wanted to send it to another lawyer. Doesn't matter. Chris is editing the names of the lawyers off of it, and after this show, it will be uploaded onto Locals. So you can go to Candace.locals.com and you can read the entirety of a letter that we sent back to these people. And even more has transpired since. There's just a lot happening with France right now, and I need to just really focus on all of the information that I have received, and still all in on everything that I am saying. It is so much like Americans. Your mind is going to be blown. English-speaking world, okay? People that don't speak French, your mind is just going to be blown. If you thought the Kamala Chronicles was interesting, you just are going to, you're going to need to sit down and just take a deep breath, and probably have to pause and take more deep breaths and go, this can't be real. Like, why were we ever watching anything fiction when the real life stuff that takes place in government is so much darker and more insane? Like, for my true crime mamas, we're like, it's like true crime, essentially. Brigitte Macron, Emmanuel Macron, your mind will be blown. And so I need to buckle down and get some edits done. So tomorrow we are going to be off. So I'm sorry that I can't give you anything on Friday. That's why we're making today a little extra long. I'm supposed to be reading your comments, and all I'm doing is commenting. This is crazy. Let's get to your comments right now. What am I doing? I'm just off on a tangent. I'm off on a Brigitte Macron tangent. Okay, what do you guys have for me? First and foremost, we have regarding Blake Lively. Judith said, Blake wanted to be relevant as an actress because she's never been, so she did everything in her power to hijack the movie to be the superstar that she wanted to be alongside her husband. Yeah, I really do just think that this stuff goes to your head. Once you become A-list, you just, like, you start to believe you're untouchable. It's so important to have people in your life that will tell you no. Like, you just need people that will say, you know what? No, that's a very bad idea. It's Archie writes, man, don't say Blake, let her crumble. It's time there be a precedent set that women can't just lie about men and suffer no consequences for it. In the long run, it's not good for men or women. I think the thing that bothers me the most about it is, first and foremost, is because I have 2 sons and 1 on the way. So I have 3 sons, okay? And even before I was married with children, I was against this because I knew that one day I would have sons. And what bothers me is they always take the same angle. Like, the guy is an abusive creep. He's abusive creep. It's pornography. And suddenly it's just, you're putting slush on this person's character and making it sound like he's just like a nasty, ooh, you know how guys are, like looking at his pornography and he showed me a phone, it's pornography. I just don't like that. I don't like that at all. And so, yeah, I would, by the way, selfishly, I would love to see her hit the stands. But I also I'm trying to be a girl's right now, a girl's girl, and tell her not to do that. Nicole writes, this would have hurt Justin's career if not for the internet. Yeah, because we're all detectives now, girl. We're all detectives now. Carrie writes, I got mommy intuition too, girl, and I get good vibes from the Baldoni's lawyer also. Yeah, he's just telling the truth. Brian Friedman is telling the truth. I sense it. Purple Tiger writes, I need a version of Candace singing Bad Blood, please. Baby, now we got bad blood. Look at your stuff, yeah. I think it's really not a great song, to be honest. And it was so petty that she did that, all in the feminists, as feminists do, to march hot girls against, who was it? Katy Perry. Not good. Not good. Regarding the Sam Altman story, Isabella writes, I live in a small town, New Mexico. Can't tell you how many murders have happened that have been ruled as an accident. Yeah, New Mexico would be a good place to get away with stuff. Magali writes, I'm so glad you are talking about this case. Thank you, Candace. Yes, it does not look like a suicide. It looks like a Hillary Clinton suicide, a suicided, maybe, potentially. I'm not saying anything at all. We only let Kanye not say things at all. Rhoda writes, I started watching the interview and how hard would it be to doctor the CCTV after admitting AI is here? Oh my God, don't even get me thinking about AI and all the dark things that can happen. I am just very anti. Gavin Newsom, regarding Gavin Newsom's executive order, Kenga Kong writes, yes, it's a good thing, but Gavin probably wants the land for 15-minute cities. I'm not sure what that means, 15-minute cities. Truth Seeker writes, wow, Ted Cruz not representing Texans on this one. He usually gets it right, and I totally disagree with Ted Cruz on that one. I mean, at least the second half of his tweet. There is nothing wrong with what he is doing, in my opinion. Steve writes, there is no place for the victims of the fires to live, no matter how much money was given. And that's the point. And they should be given a lot more money, but at least they'd be able to rent a home in the interim, be able to think not in a crisis of like, well, you need cash now, you need cash now. It should not happen right now. And our government should be doing much more for them. C3000 writes, that's what developers have been doing to the Black community since America's inception. Developers have been doing this all over. They are ambulance chasers. There is no question. Yolanda writes, bring back the golden age to Hollywood. I actually disagree with that, only because Trump should probably read Hollywood Babylon. The golden age was an age of murder and corruption and bootleggers and actresses being killed. I'm sorry to report that to you, Mr. Trump. In the miscellaneous segment, we have miscellaneous comments. We have Sarah. She says, Candace, we are so excited for the new platform and your freedom. Everyone cancel your Netflix and support Candace on locals. It's going to be good. We've got A Shot in the Dark. We're going to have the Macron series and all of the episodes in which YouTube takes down and says that we can't speak about them. We're just going to run it and you'll be able to watch the show live at CandaceOwens.com. So that's exciting. Brittany writes, you really need to be pregnant every year. You are extra petty and hilarious. I know. And I don't know why. It's just the men. When the little boys are in my belly, I get a little feisty. I know some mamas can relate. With my daughter, I was much more at peace. With these little boys, I'm like, let's go. Alaska Dog Lady writes, can we start the Fake and Gay Awards? We can offer Blake Lively one, and I'd like to nominate Bono for performing in a staged war zone and Zelensky for his time cover. There should be the Fake and Gay Awards. I love it. It would beat the GLAAD Awards. Fake and Gay. I like it a lot. Speaking of which, guys, finally, we are dropping the Candace Fake and Gay merch. So you can actually head to the website and you can buy that at clubcandace.com if you want a fake and gay. Everything is fake and gay Candace cup. You can go to clubcandace.com and get that now. We're doing limited stock drop right now, and then we will put up more once those sell out. All right. I think that is all that we have for today. This was a super long episode, and I just can't stop talking. I don't really want to go. I just want to keep talking to my friends on the phone, but now I'm like, I got to go be a mom again, so I got to go. I love you guys forever, and I'll see you tomorrow.